Good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's afternoon for me. This is Ryan Van Blarkum, and I'm the host of the Whispering Wheels podcast. Today, we are going to talk about my favorite topic again. Can you guess? One, two. Indy Next. Yeah, because what else do I talk about? If I'm not spreading Indy Next propaganda, I'm not doing my job. I'm I'm not being Ryan, and that's unacceptable if you ask me. It's unacceptable to not be Ryan. So, we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Chris Griffis Memorial Test. I put out a lot of information about it as we headed up to the test, put out some videos, saw some awesome times get put in, and watched a lot of drivers learn a lot. So, something that was so interesting about this test was that there were drivers who had never drove a road to IndyCar before, or an Indy Next car before, which is the Dallara IL-15. So it's interesting to me seeing the progress of drivers throughout the day. One of the drivers I really want to highlight is Haley Deegan, and I saw a lot of hate for her times that were posted at the end of the day. And as someone who was there on the ground getting to watch her, they did such a disservice to the progress that she made throughout the day. So when times were first starting to get put in after everyone had really settled in, she was about 6, 7, 8 seconds off the pace. We watched her learn how to shift these cars. We could hear it. We were in turn 12 in the short chute of the oval. But turn 12, then into 13 and out to 14, which is the last section of the track, right before you get to the main stretch and the where the checker flag would be in that last timing loop. So we watched her learn how to shift, and we heard it too. And we watched her get later and later on the brakes, faster and faster through that section of the track, which is so technical and really so hard to learn. She'd never drove at this track before. She'd never been to IMS before. So it was really interesting to see her progression throughout the day, see her really get better. I think she ended the test like 8 seconds, she went from 8 seconds off the pace really to like 3 seconds off the pace, which, if you remember, that happened a couple times during races last year where a qualifying spread would look like that. So for her first time being in the car, and that's what it looks like, I think she's going to adapt well. I think she's a fantastic driver. So I'm really excited to see where this goes for her. She tested with HMD Motorsports. There were a lot of last minute signings done, as that always happens before the Chris Griffis test. We got the Andretti Global lineup confirmed for next year. So they will run, in the 26 car, they'll run USF Pro 2000 champion Lockie Hughes. In the 27, it'll be former Andretti Cape driver Salvador de Alba, who finished 8th in a Cape car, and I really thought he was going to win a race last year. So I'll be interested to see in the Andretti car if he can go win that oval race that we know that's coming. That's coming. I have no doubt that Salvador can compete for this title, especially in the Andretti car. To finish 5th in a Cape after all the struggles they've had, and after they got picked up by Andretti, really helped them get their feet wet again, get back in the door, have a full-time driver. Thought that was awesome. The 28 will belong to former FIA Formula 3 champion Dennis Hauger. He ran at MP Motorsports. He's finishing up the season there, I believe. I think they only have like one race left anyways. But he ran for Prima in Formula 3. So he will know people in the paddock. That's interesting to me. I think that'll be interesting to look at as we see how he adapts to the series and the results that he puts out. And then returning for another season in Indy Next is James Rowe in the 29 car. Probably a top con again. He's been doing a lot of sponsorship events for them, and he's been very active in pursuing sponsors. He wants to drive an Indy car. So I think he will have a great season, especially continuity, the same guys, same team, but he can also act as a veteran presence for this team, and really, I think that's a great lineup. I think it's really strong. Now we're going to talk about my guys, my favorite team. So, Abel Motorsports has 2 confirmed driver, Yuven Sundermorthy and Miles Rowe. And let me tell you how excited I am about just that at the start. Just that. That's so strong already. So excited for Miles to be at Abel. And he's bringing that Force Indy team. In fact, if you don't know, Force Indy shares the building with Juncos in Speedway. They split the building. And Abel Motorsports is right across the street. They split with Home Field Apparel, which, fun fact, I'm wearing a Home Field shirt. This was part of the box that McLaren sent me for Pride Month. Absolutely love this shirt. So comfortable, so soft. But yeah, that Pride package is one of my favorite things I've ever received in the mail. So absolutely love that. But they tested with Jordan Missig, who ran for them a couple times this year, produced a 9th place finish at Gateway, which was awesome. He never drove that was his oval debut. So, really excited to see if we can get Jordan full-time, part-time. I just hope he runs a couple races. He mentioned after he won his Radical Cup North America Championship in his class that he really, really wants to pursue driving in Indy next. And I would love that. I think Jordan's a great guy. He's so awesome. Very appreciative of bracelets. Made him some bracelets for races he wasn't driving at. And, I just love talking with him. Great, down-to-earth guy. Fantastic race car driver. And then something that was very interesting to me that I didn't expect, that 4th driver that they had at the test was Callum Hedge, who ran the 17 for HMD Motorsports this year. And I thought it was interesting that he wasn't testing with HMD, but I was really excited. My best friend Issa loves him, Sea Hedge Nation, and to see his name and the 17 number follow him to Abel, he produced great times. I believe he was 3rd overall. Let me check. 4th overall. He was only about 3/10 off Miles. Miles set the pace. Abel Motorsports was the benchmark. And as long as I've followed them, it has been awesome to see the progression of Abel as a team and where they started from and where they are now. They're becoming a true powerhouse in Indy next. They're winning races. They're on the podium. And to see all of that happen as Jacob progressed up the ladder has made me so ecstatic. It makes me love to be a fan of this team and all the people. Just absolutely awesome to see. So for them to be 1 and 4 in the last session of the day is phenomenal. We had some rookies that performed well. Dennis and Lockie were 2nd and 3rd. I know that Lockie posted on his Instagram he had a few mistakes learning the car, but he said it's wicked fast. And I have to 100% agree with him. He looked so confident. So confident on the brakes into 12. Obviously, the USF cars ran at Indy, but to see how fast he was and how fast he adapted to the Indy Next car, Lockie Hughes could be a lock for a title contender. And if you know anything about him, that's not surprising. HMD brought in an interesting lineup to me. So they signed Haley Deegan full-time, which I talked about last week. And yeah, her progress was great. Tommy Smith, who ran for Van Amersfoort in F3, I believe. F2, maybe. He obviously had never been in the track, never raced in the States. But I think that as he gets time in these cars, he is going to have such a interesting time developing and adapting to them. But I don't think he'll be far off the pace. Especially in an HMD, I think he'll have the tools and the data and feedback to really learn from the test and grow as a driver, right? So there's that. They had Bryce Aaron, who ran at Andretti Global this past season. he signed to run the 39 car. He finished in the top 10 in timing and scoring. So, interested to see how that partnership will work out. I wonder if more will come out about why he made the switch. But he looked strong, he looked fast. Liam Skeets was another driver that interested me. He was always late on the brakes in 12, and that can take a lot to get used to, but he finished 5th in timing. He was the highest HMD car, so that will be interesting to see that partnership if he signs at HMD for the year, because he's not currently signed. As expected, Kyle Collette in the top 10. We know that he had some problems in the 2 races at Indy this year, so seeing him go out, he said he wanted to learn. He talked to the Indy Next social media, said he just wanted to learn the track, still get some more seat time, learn where he went wrong, which is understandable, obviously. Like, if you have a tough race, 2 tough races, you're going to want to learn where you went wrong and figure out ways you can, tackle that challenge next year. Ricardo Escato and Jace Denmark ran for Cape Motorsports. Escato finished in the top 10, which was refreshing to see. He ran a couple races with Juncos that have the best luck. Didn't drive the cleanest, though, so seeing him have a clean test and finish in the top 10 in timing was nice. Denmark, he was signed last minute, Thursday, I believe. Finished 14th out of 22. So not a horrible day. Got to adjust to the cars. Looked confident, though. So that's what you always want to see in these tests, is throughout the day you want to see the progression of confidence. Jack Miller finished 17th out of 22 cars. He was about a second off the pace. If you know, the Miller Vinatieri Motorsports car was a little cursed this season. So it was a little cursed. He ran out of fuel, which brought out one of the red flags in the test. But Ella, paddock pair Ella, we were at the test together. We decided to take a track tour because they were doing the Pagoda Tour and the Victory Podium Tour. So we took a tour, and we got to see Tommy Smith and Jack Miller running down the front stretch, and we got to see them go out. So that was nice, little view into testing, and it's very low-key when you get to see it from that angle. I think people don't realize how lax the testing environment can be. You don't go out right away when it starts. There were cars coming in and out of the F1 garages on Gasoline Alley. Everyone had just been at lunch, probably went over data and, just going through feedback. So it's very lax. They didn't come out right away, which we missed a little bit of running. And then when we were on the bus back to the museum and the gift shop, we got to see them in what I believe is 8 and 9, 8, 9, 10 area on the track. So got to see them run through that part, which it was awesome because we were right up against the fence in the bus. So we watched a couple of cars. We just saw Bryce Aaron, Josh Pearson coming in and out, Haley Deegan. So got to see that. You have a lot more access on testing days at Indianapolis Motor Speedway than you would assume. I know that the USF Pro 2000 and USF 2000 cars tested Saturday, Sunday. I was at my Real People job, so didn't get to go out and see that, but I heard that a lot of junior drivers that came up and did that. USF juniors also tested. It was interesting to me not to see Sebastian or Oliver Weldon on one of those lists, but I understand the circumstances of the week that it happened. So I would understand if they were not in the car. Also, I know that these young drivers, they're all still in school. And to get to Indy, to get prepped for Indy, that they're taking time out of their schooling, their education to come do this. So the fact that these drivers do what they do make time for what they do. And there are still drivers pursuing an education. Heck, in Indy next, there are drivers pursuing college education. It's nice to see that they're finding a balance to be able to do that. Because I know I work a job and I go to school, and I know how hard that is for me. So for them to be in like full-time schooling and to go after chasing those racing dreams is really, you will never understand the workload that they're going through. So I know that Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing posted a video today, ASMR of a seat fit. So I have to assume we are getting Louis Foster's seat fit. He was in the video, so definitely assume that. Very excited. Be excited to see who his sponsors are. I can't wait for livery reveals to happen. Speaking of livery reveals, I know that Jaguar in Formula E, their testing livery is really cool. So they have 16 victories as a team and at 11 different tracks. So the livery is black with the gold accents and then white like the layout of the tracks they've won at. That was interesting. Mahindra had a launch today. Shout out Chloe. She got to see Edo again. And he knew about the tattoo. That's really important to me. Chloe's so cool. But she was at the Mahindra launch. It's a stunning car. It's metallic looking. It's shiny. It's red and black and white. And Mahindra just always knocks it out of the park with the livery. So that was gorgeous. Very excited to see what all the other teams are doing. We have an F1 race to talk about. Charles Leclerc, in a daring move up into turn 1 on the first lap, went from 4th to 1st and just kind of stayed there. I had a lot of friends that were out at the track that got to see that happen because they were in turn 1 or on the hill up to 1. Tire and fuel strategy being what won the race for Ferrari and them not messing it up. Cinema. A 1-2. Charles absolutely managed the tire so well. And I think something that you can take from this is that how much Ferrari needed Charles's engineer, Brian. I think they work so well together. He keeps Charles calm, but still relays the information that Charles needs. And he just keeps Charles's head on his shoulders. Not that Charles was really flying off the handles, but he definitely needed someone that understood his line of thinking and communicated well, and I think Brian does that for him. Franco Colapinto and Liam Lawson in the points together, 9th and 10th. For Lawson to drive from 19th to 9th and be in the points, phenomenal drive. He literally took the I am speed from Lightning McQueen and ran with it. And I just think that if Liam Lawson is out of a seat after all of the drama regarding seat switching and everyone wanting Lawson in a seat, Helmut Marko talking about Lawson being in a seat, and performances like this and he doesn't end up in a seat, that's a crime. Same with Franco Colapinto. Outperforming Alex Albon is really hard if you look up matchups from his teammates that aren't, Max Verstappen and at Red Bull. So for Franco to go in, out-qualify Alex, outrace Alex, a lot has to be said about his talent. And I think if Sauber Steak, whatever it's going to be called, is looking, Audi, whatever, like I said, is looking for a talented young driver, they have one that they're watching race. And if Franco is not in the consideration for being a driver for that team, I think we really need to examine what the point of wanting young drivers or young drivers that have experience is. Because it seems like, there's dwindling numbers. They want to keep around drivers who have just kind of had a stay in F1 and were never really, I don't want to say never really talented, but Audi signed Nico Hulkenberg. He has the longest active streak of races without a podium. And some of them slipped away from him. Some of them slipped away because of something he did. But I think pairing, whoever he pairs with at this team needs to be someone of high caliber, because I don't think Nico's a bad driver. He didn't drive for the best team throughout his career, but I think we need a young driver there. I don't think we need someone that's sat around in the sport forever and really done nothing with it. So I really hope that they really look at Franco or even some of the drivers in their academy and actually do something about it, and do something about the fact that Formula One is just getting older and older. And people joke about IndyCar being F1's retirement home, but our 40-something-year-old drivers are winning races. Scott Dixon is competing for titles. It's not a retirement home if the old drivers are out driving a lot of young guys. But when that happens, when the opposite happens in F1, that's when it becomes a problem. So I really hope that Franco gets considered for a seat, because he's putting in some phenomenal races and some great drives. That's something that I have such a big problem with, is like drivers who have been mid their entire careers taking up a seat in what is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsports and the best racing series in the world, and it's a bunch of old guys that never really were anything, except for when they were really young, but they're not really young anymore. Yeah. So it was a fantastic race, though. I got to watch while I was at work. Happy for Charles to get another win. It's making I know that Lando and Max had a little bit of a controversial incident regarding track limits and being forced off. And listen, if you ever watch NASCAR at COTA, what are track limits? NASCAR doesn't know what track limits are. One of the only series in the world that has its track limits thing is F1. And Max and Lando were just simply racing each other hard. And I believe Andrea Stella made a comment about how they ruined like a perfectly great piece of motorsports by throwing that penalty there. I think they did. Do I think Max had a great drive? I do. Was he deserving of a podium? Yes. But racing for the podium. F1 fans may hate me for this, but I feel like F1 doesn't know what racing is. Everything's a penalty. Everything's track limits. It's kind of exhausting when you're going in to watch racing, and the only time you see cars wheel to wheel, someone walks out of it with a penalty, or walks out of it with, a 5-second stop and go, a 10-second stop and go, 10 seconds added after the race. So it's just like, if you want them to race, if you want this to be the highest, form of racing in the world, you have to race. Speaking of racing, NASCAR was at Las Vegas, which I never watched that race. I can't watch racing at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's not something I do. But my driver had a very bad weekend. We are really low on points. Mr. Blaney is really low on points. It's gonna be a win to get in. One thing that I noticed was the fact that Ryan helped Joey to the win. Ryan is such a good teammate. I think he doesn't really get repaid for that. In fact, I feel like he gets the least, he gets the shortest end of the stick when it comes to teammates helping him out. So it just kind of sucks to me that, he's going to help, but he's not going to get the repayment. A lot of people have caused a stink about Joey, being 15th in points if they ran the old point system and getting to race for a championship. And I see why people are upset about it. I mean, had Bowman not been light, Joey wasn't in, and then he wins at Las Vegas, and he's going to the championship 4. But it's Joey Logano in even years, so yes, the playoff format doesn't always work, and there's a lot of flaws, but at the end of the day, it's Joey Logano in an even year. Of course he was going to make it to the round of 4. I mean, stats don't lie, right? But that's kind of all I have to say on races for the week. One thing I want to highlight is some fantastic people who have really helped me get this off the ground. My best friend Issa, who has been my light at the end of the tunnel on getting this launched and really cheering me on every step of the way. Rafa, the Live Laugh Love Calamilot group chat, y'all are the real ones. Y'all make me so, so happy to be your friend, and I appreciate your kind words of encouragement every time I sit down in this chair and I get to talk about what I love. Shout out to Olivia, who my track buddy. You make all of this possible by, telling me you just got to do it. And I'm doing it, and I'm very happy to be doing it. And to all my lovely listeners, thank you for putting up with my voice for 20 to 30 minutes every week. Launching this has been something I've been working hard on and been wanting to do for a while. So thank you for listening. And question of the day. Based on the testing lineups, which Indy Next team would you be excited to support? I hope you know that Abel Motorsports is always going to be the team I want to support. So that's my answer, but leave a comment with the Indy Next team you want to support and the driver you want to support, because I feel like this Fox deal is really going to help them get some visibility. I'm so excited to see what happens next. So that's our question of the day, and thank you for listening. Bye.